Welcome, sweet souls. Good evening, good morning, or good middle of the night, wherever you are. Come on in close, pull that blanket up to your chin, and let Auntie Ray pour you something warm. This is Tales of Auntie Ray, the place where the porch lights stay on and the stories never sleep. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell so you never miss a whisper. And if you're coming back, Lord, y'all are my heart, drop me a quick, hey, Auntie, in the comments and tell me what city, town, or holler you're listening from tonight. I read every single one. Now, turn the lights down low. Because tonight we're going down into the Louisiana bayou, where the cypress knees listen and the water keeps every secret it's ever been told. This one is called The House the Rougarou Guards. The first time I smelled oil on my own land, I was 71 years old and peeling crawfish at the kitchen table. The scent came in through the screen door like a stranger. Sweet, metallic, wrong. I looked up from the bowl and saw my daughter-in-law, Monique, standing on the gallery in white jeans and sunglasses that cost more than my wedding ring, talking on her phone with her back to the swamp. Yes, the surveys came back hot, she was saying, voice bright as Sunday brass. Black gold. Baby. We just need the old folks out of the picture for 60 days and the lease is ours. She didn't know I could hear her over the cicadas. 3 weeks later my son Remy and Monique locked my husband Etienne and me in the root cellar under the house. They said it was, for our own good. Etienne's mind had been slipping since the stroke. He sometimes called me Delphine when my name is Evangeline. They told the neighbors we'd gone to live with my sister in Baton Rouge. Then they started bringing men in hard hats onto the back 40. Men who hammered stakes into the ground my ancestors bled for. The cellar smelled of damp clay, old potatoes, and the ghost of my grandmere's fig preserves. Etienne sat on an overturned crate, rocking, whispering to people who weren't there. I sat beside him in the dark and listened to the house breathe above us. Floorboards creaking like an old woman turning in bed. That was when Etienne's eyes cleared for the first time in months. He grabbed my wrist with fingers strong as cypress knees. Behind the brick with the X, he rasped. Papa showed me when I was 16. Said only open it if the land itself was dying. I thought he was raving again. But I had nothing left to lose except the dark, so I felt along the back wall until my nails found the brick marked with a rusty nail in the shape of a cross. It slid out like it had been waiting. Behind it lay a tin box the color of dried blood. Inside were 3 things. A leather pouch heavy with 1863 Confederate $20 gold pieces. Payment for a plantation that never got delivered because the war ended first. A water-stained diary bound in alligator-hide. A folded land grant signed by the governor of Louisiana in 1871, made out to Silas Thibodeau, colored free man, for the exact 640 acres we still lived on. The diary was written in Silas's own hand. I read it by the thin blade of light that came through the cracked cellar door, and every word was a knife between my ribs. Silas Thibodeau had been the body servant of Captain Etienne Robichaud, the white planter whose portrait still hung in our parlor. When the Yankees burned the big house in 1864, Silas carried the dying captain 3 miles through the swamp to this smaller Acadian cottage. The captain, delirious with fever, told Silas to take the gold and the deed hidden in the chimney. "The land is yours now," he whispered. "You earned it carrying me." Silas buried the captain under the live oak out front, forged freedom papers, and bought the land legally after the war with the Confederate gold no bank would touch. Hold on, babies. Auntie Ray needs to catch her breath for a second. If this story's got your heart thumping yet, do me a favor real quick. Hit that like button so YouTube knows to carry this tale farther down the bayou. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications. We drop a brand new life story every Tuesday and Friday night at 8 p.m. Central, rain or shine, hurricane or high water. And if you want to help keep the coffee pot full and the porch light burning, there's a super thanks button down below, or you can join the channel as a member. Every dollar goes straight back into more stories for y'all. Alright now, let me wipe my eyes and finish this thing. Back to the tale. Every generation since had passed down the same lie, that we were the captain's legitimate descendants. My husband Etienne, my gentle confused Etienne, was not the great-great-grandson of a Confederate hero. He was the great-great-grandson of the enslaved man who saved him. And my son Remy, who wore monogrammed cufflinks and bragged about his old Creole blood at Mardi Gras balls in New Orleans, was trading that sacred, secret truth for fracking money. I closed the diary and felt something inside me die quiet and clean, the way a candle goes out when the wick finally drowns. They left us down there 2 nights. On the third morning, Monique cracked the door and tossed in a plastic tray of cold Popeyes and a gallon of water like we were dogs. She wore diamond studs now. "Sign the power of attorney, Mama Vangy," she sang. "And we'll put y'all in a nice memory care place in Lafayette. Ocean Air, Activities Director, the works." I looked at her pretty painted mouth and thought about how many alligators I had fed in my life. I signed nothing. That evening a storm rolled in off the Gulf, the kind that makes the cypress bow and the rougarou howl. Lightning hit so close the air smelled of burnt copper. Remy opened the cellar door, soaked and cursing, and hauled us upstairs because the generator had flooded and they needed Etienne's old army cot to sleep on. I waited until they drank enough Crown Royal to float a pirogue. Then I took the tin box, wrapped it in oilskin, and walked out the back door into the rain. The swamp took me like it always had, arms of Spanish moss brushing my face, water warm as blood around my ankles. I knew every stump and channel. I had been running trot lines here since I was 7. I paddled Grandpare's old pirogue to Tante Zoe's stilt house 2 miles deeper in the basin. Tante Zoe was 93, blind in one eye, and still the most feared treader between Homa and Morgan City. She sat on her porch smoking a pipe carved from a cypress knee and listened while the rain drummed on her tin roof. When I finished talking, she cackled so hard she coughed up something dark. "Chilly, you holding thunder in that box," she said. "But thunder gotta be aimed right or it burned down your own house." She gave me chicory coffee thick as tar and a plan. Phase 1. I went back before dawn, quiet as a heron, and hid the diary and the land grant in the false bottom of my Cedar Hope chest, the one Monique had already marked for the estate sale. Phase 2. I started cooking again. I made roux the color of midnight, gumbo thick enough to stand a spoon. I hummed hymns while I stirred. I let them think the cellar had broken my spirit. Remy relaxed. Monique started posting Instagram stories, turning our historic family estate into a legacy for the next generation. #blessed #oil life. I smiled at her phone every time it pointed my way. Phase 3 was harder. I needed the world to see what Remy was. But I needed to do it without dragging Silas's name, or Etienne's, through the mud. The truth was mine to protect now. So I called the only person I trusted who still had a fax machine and a law degree. My cousin Delphine's boy, Lucien, who practiced environmental law in New Orleans. I met him at CC's Coffee on Magazine Street wearing a gray wig and sunglasses. He read the documents under the table and went white as a sac à la belly. "Aunt Vangy," he whispered, "this deed predates every mineral lease in the parish. If this surfaces, the oil company's claim collapses. And if the Creole elite find out the Robichaux bloodline is complicated, Remy's whole social circle will drop him like a hot boudin." I sipped my café au lait. "Then let's make sure both things happen at once," I said. The annual Robichaux Arsenault Mardi Gras ball was in 3 weeks. Remy had been president of the crew for 6 years running. Monique had already ordered a gown that cost more than most folks' yearly salary. I waited until the night of the ball. The ballroom at the Roosevelt Hotel glittered like a chandeliered swamp. Crystal, gold, masks, champagne flutes sweating in the February heat. Remy wore the captain's 1855 dress sword on a crimson sash. Monique dripped diamonds and told everyone within earshot that the family's ancestral lands were about to make them all very comfortable. I arrived late, on Lucien's arm, wearing the same black lace dress I'd worn to my own wedding in 1972. No one recognized me at first. Old women my age are invisible until they decide not to be. At 11:11 p.m., the hour the rougarou is said to walk, I climbed the grand staircase. In my hand was a manila envelope. I did not need a microphone. I simply opened the envelope and let the contents fall like magnolia petals. Photocopies. Hundreds of them. The land grant in Silas's name. The diary pages. A family tree drawn in my own careful hand showing the truth in black and white. They fluttered down over the ballroom like white egrets. Silence fell so hard you could hear the chandeliers tremble. Remy stood frozen on the dais, champagne sloshing over his white gloves. Monique's mouth opened and closed like a catfish on dry land. Then the whispers started. That's not possible. The Robichaux are old French. But the deed says colored. Jesus, the captain's bastard. I did not raise my voice. I simply said, loud enough for the whole room. This land was paid for in blood and gold by a man who carried his master through the swamp to save his life. That man was my husband's true ancestor. And my son tried to sell it for fracking money while locking us in the cellar like trash. I looked straight at Remy. The house and the land never belonged to the captain's white heirs. They belonged to Silas Thibodeau's blood. And I am keeping them. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered like a sound like breaking bones. Remy lunged for me, but two off-duty Jefferson Parish deputies, friends of Lucien, caught his arms. Monique started screaming that it was all lies, forgery, elder abuse. But the crew president, old Mr. Arsenault himself, was already reading the documents with shaking hands. By midnight the ballroom had emptied as if a hurricane evacuation had been called. By morning the oil company had withdrawn its lease. By the next week every board Remy sat on asked for his resignation. By the end of the month the house in the Garden District was on the market and Monique's jewelry appeared on Ruby Lane, priced to move. They left Louisiana altogether. Last I heard, Monique was managing a tanning salon in Pascagoula and Remy was selling storm shutters door to door in Mobile. He never called. Not even when Etienne died. I buried my husband under the live oak beside the captain he never knew was his kin. I placed a single Confederate gold piece in Etienne's hand. Not for the afterlife, but so he would have something to pay the ferryman when he crossed over and met Silas face to face. The oil men never came back. The swamp took the stakes out of the ground and grew over them like they had never been. I turned the root cellar into a keeping room. Whitewashed the walls, put in wide plank cypress shelves, installed soft lights the color of honey. On the shelves I placed Silas's diary open to the page where he wrote, "I carried a man who owned me so he would not die." In return he gave me the only thing he had left. His name on a piece of paper. I took the land instead. Land don't lie. I hung the land grant in a frame above the mantel where the captain's portrait used to be. I hung a new portrait beside it. Silas Thibodeau, drawn from his own written description. Tall, thin, eyes like river stones, wearing the same Sunday coat for 20 years. Some nights I sit on the gallery with a glass of muscadine wine and watch the fireflies stitch green light across the dark water. The house creaks and settles the way it always has, but now it sounds different. Like it is breathing easier. I am 75 now. My hands are knotted with arthritis, but they are my hands. I plant fig trees where the oil men wanted to drill. I teach my grandnieces and nephews, Silas's blood, not the captain's, how to make rue the color of midnight and how to listen when the swamp speaks. Sometimes tourists in airboats come looking for the haunted Robichaux plantation. I wave from the porch and invite them in for coffee. I show them the land grant and the diary. I let them touch the gold piece I keep in a velvet box. One is enough. The rest bought the neighboring acreage so no rig will ever come within 5 miles. They ask if I'm angry. I tell them anger is a young folk's fuel. Old women run on something slower and longer. Call it justice, call it memory, call it love with teeth. The house is quiet these days. No more shouting. No more diamond heels clicking across my heart. Just cicadas, the soft knock of the wind chime made from Etienne's old dog tags, and the occasional low growl far off in the canebrake when the moon is full. They say that's the rougarou walking the boundary. I think it's just Silas keeping watch. Either way, the land is safe. The house is mine. And I am free. And that's the end of tonight's story, Cher. The house the rougarou guards. Some of y'all are gonna say Miss Evangeline was too hard. Some of y'all are gonna say she wasn't near hard enough. Either way, I felt every word of that woman's pain and every ounce of her peace when she finally took it back. Now I need to hear from you. In the comments, tell Auntie Ray. Where is the line for you? When does a mama's love run out and a woman's survival kick in? And while you're down there, let me know what state, city, country, or parish you're listening from tonight. I'm trying to put a pin in every place these stories travel. If this one touched you, moved you, made you mad, made you cry, made you proud, do 3 things for your auntie. Leave a heart or a fire or a simple amen. Share this video with somebody who needs to remember they still got fight left in them. Subscribe so we can sit on this porch again real soon. Next Tuesday we're headed up to the Carolina Lowcountry with a story about a gullah graveyard, a stolen pearls, and a woman who learned how to make the ancestors speak through sweetgrass. You don't want to miss it. Until then, keep your doors locked, your candles burning, and your people close. The bayou is listening. And so am I. This is Auntie Ray, signing off from Tales of Auntie Ray. I love y'all something fierce. Sleep sweet, or don't sleep at all. Good night, babies.